Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, welcome. I have a really interesting palette for you here today. It's not one of those dupe brands I normally review on my channel. As you know, I normally review eyeshadow palettes from the same couple of brands that are very well known for making dupe palettes. However, today I have here an eyeshadow palette that looks very similar to the Huda Beauty Mercury Retrograde palette. In fact, they basically copied everything. They even used the Mercury Retrograde name, her picture. I'm pretty sure that this is not legal, but nevertheless, we have this eyeshadow palette. Of course, this is not the same type of strong quality plastic that you get from Huda. This is pretty much just cardboard, but the shadows, they are something else. As you can see, they are in the exact same order as the Huda Beauty eyeshadows, which of course make it really easy for you to follow any tutorial online. Also, something that you can't really see anymore because I've been swatching and using these shades, but the brand's name, which is Guicami, was embedded in every single shade. Honestly, when you first open this palette, you're like, wow, this is really something nice, and I actually did really like that. Then I started swatching the shades, and I'm not gonna lie, some of them didn't swatch that well. You get this typical, almost like gluey feeling when you're swatching the shimmery shades, and because of that I thought that they were gonna have a really poor performance when you're using them on your eyes, but that wasn't the case. Actually, I used these eyeshadow palettes on one of my eyes today, and you cannot tell which one. It is actually an amazing eyeshadow palette. So I'm gonna take some time today from your day to introduce you to this palette. I'm gonna talk about it because I feel like this could really be a good alternative for people who cannot afford to pick up the original one, or for whatever personal reason don't want to support Huda. So let's jump right into it. So once again, this is the original Mercury Retrograde palette from Huda Beauty. It retails for £58 here in the UK. It has 18 shades inside with 16.1 gram of product in total. So you get a little bit less than a gram product in each pan, and it was made in Italy just like all other eyeshadow palettes from Huda. Now I must say that on the Guicami palette you don't actually get any details on the back of the palette for some reason, so I'm gonna be telling you the details of this eyeshadow palette from the packaging. The packaging itself at first glance looks exactly the same, but like I said, you have all the ingredients and the product details on the back of this one instead of the actual palette. This palette can be purchased around £5 to £6, just your average dupe palette price basically. It was of course made in China, and it has 19.7 grams of product in total, so that's about 1.1 gram of product per pan, and it has 36 months shelf life, whilst the Huda Beauty palette claims to have 24 months shelf life. Just a couple of things I wanted to mention about the packaging of the dupe palette. So first of all, you have a QR code with the Guicami name on it, and when you try to scan that with the reader, it first tries to jump on a website, and then it says it cannot open it, and then it jumps over to the app WeChat. So I believe it tries to make me download that up. Other than that, an interesting thing is that you have everything in Chinese, a part of the ingredient list, and some instructions which I'm gonna read for you in a second because I find it really funny. The product has a batch code on it, and it also gives you, I believe, the date when you're supposed to stop using it. On my eyeshadow palette personally, it's the 20th of December 2022, so I think that's a really great detail that they mentioned it there. So right under the instructions, it tells you how to use this eyeshadow palette, and I think it's quite funny, so I'm just gonna read it for you. Usage. First, use eyeshadow brush to apply the most light color eyeshadow eyelid as the base of color brighten. Next, brush layer medium color eyeshadow on the outer half of eyelid and fold to shape the stereo effect. Want to add? Question mark? I mean, what is that? I really think they should have asked someone to double check this for them before they put this on the packaging. Other than that, like I said, the eyeshadow palette looks exactly the same as the Huda one, inside and out. One thing I wanted to mention is that they didn't even bother changing the names of the shades. All they did is that they switched them around a little bit. Some shades have the same name as in the Huda palette, some don't. This palette is already a quite serious copyright issue, so I don't think they cared about changing the names whatsoever. Like I said, they are in the same order as in the original palette, and I'm very, very pleased with this palette, I must say. I'm gonna quickly insert for you the swatches I made. First of all, sorry about the swatches being so dark. It was already sunset when I was filming this. But as you can see from the swatches, the shades are really, really accurate. They are very, very similar to the original shades, although some of them lack the opacity, the pigmentation, and like I said before, all of the shimmery shades had this gluey feel to them, and because of that I thought they weren't really gonna work on the eyes. But in the case of this palette, that's actually not what happened. It worked really, really well, and as you can see, one of my eyes was created using this palette, and that eye is this one, and honestly, I don't think anyone could tell the difference. So I am personally very, very pleased with this eyeshadow palette. Not sure how you guys feel about dupe palettes. If you're watching this video, the chances are you're not really against them and you are looking for cheaper alternatives. Now, I must say that the ingredients of this dupe palette are obviously gonna be different than the original one. They're gonna be using cheaper ingredients most of the time. But for example, whilst in the Huda Beauty palette the ingredients vary shade by shade, it still has mica and talc just as much as the Guicami palette does. So I don't know, I just don't really find it justified that they priced this palette at this £58 price point. Don't get me wrong, this is still my favorite palette from Huda. And whilst I loved the new nude palette, I did found it quite limited in terms of how many different looks you can create using it. This palette is just so much more inspiring to me. I love, love, love these colors, and I love that the bottom two row are still pretty much remind me of the new nude palette, but they added this top row with all of these gorgeous pastels and turquoise and purple and pink shades, and because of that top row you can really take any look to the next level. And for example, I love the look I created today using this palette, and of course no dupe palette would exist without having an original one that they can copy, and it's a lovely, lovely palette to copy. But still, if you just think about it for a second, that you can save £50 by picking up the dupe palette and you pretty much get the same. If I was you, I would give it a try and see what I can achieve and how much I like it, because honestly they are identical, so why would I spend £58 when I can achieve the same thing for £6? Of course, as always, it's your decision if you want to pick up the dupe or support the original creator, but some of us just don't have the luxury to be able to make that decision because our finances already made it for us. So if you've ever been interested in the Huda Beauty palette, I would highly suggest having a look at this dupe because it seems to be a really, really good one. Without further ado, I'm gonna jump into creating this eye makeup look to show you which shades I used in case you're interested in recreating it. And I will of course also give you my thoughts about each shade we use. And once we're done, we're gonna get back here and I will tell you my final thoughts about these palettes. As always, I'm gonna be using the more expensive palette on this side of the face, which is today going to be the Huda Beauty Mercury Retrograde palette. And the more affordable palette on this side of the face, which is today going to be the Guicami Mercury Retrograde palette. To start with, I'm gonna be taking some of the shade Libra, and I'm gonna add Libra to the crease. On the Guicami side, it's called Galaxy, and again, we're just gonna add some to the crease. So far, I would say that the Huda Beauty shade has more red in it. This one is more of a blue-toned lavender shade than the other. Now I'm gonna take some of Off Balance and I'm gonna apply this on the outer corner of the under eye. And the reason we jump into this shade is because I try to use the same brush and we're gonna be blending out a darker shade with this brush after this shade, so I'm trying to apply all the lighter shades with it right now. They didn't bother to switch up the name of this shade in the palette, so in the dupe palette it's also called Off Balance. And of course we're doing the same thing here, just adding some to the outer corner of the under eye. And now to darken up the outer corner, I'm gonna take some of Vortex in a smaller brush. And then we take the original brush to blend this out. And then I take a little bit more. On the Huda side, so far, I don't have any fallout whatsoever. I don't know if it's gonna be same for the dupe palette though, so I'm actually a bit nervous about using this dark shade, but I don't want to put down a shadow shield just because of this one shade. In the dupe palette, this shade is called Supermoon, which was originally the name of this white shade. So I'm gonna take some of Supermoon now. And let's see how much fallout we get from the dupe palette. I have fallout immediately. I'm not gonna touch the fallout just yet. I'm gonna do it once I'm finished with applying this shade. Right now I'm just gonna do the same thing we did on the other side, apply some of the shade, blend it, apply more, blend it until I'm happy with the result. Alright, well, it doesn't look perfect, but it does look a lot better than I expected it to. Obviously the application on the other side worked out a lot better. This one is a bit patchy, I would say. I'm just gonna try to tap some of the shade on in that empty area and probably just leave it like that, because for whatever reason every time I blend it, it blends away in that corner. So I'm just gonna try to leave it like that, even though I can still see that it's trying to fall out from that corner. Alright, so now before I would add the shimmery shade, I'm gonna add the shade to the inner corner. And in today's look, to spice it up a little bit and do something a bit different, I decided to go with the shade Haze, which is a light mint green shade. It's really, really beautiful, and I'm hoping it's gonna work well in the inner corner. So we're gonna go in with Haze. As you can see, I applied quite a generous amount. And now we're gonna do the same shade in the Guicami palette, which is also called Haze. Okay, this mint green shade seems really very similar in the two palettes, and it was really easy to apply it on the dupe side. Okay, so now comes the main attraction, which is going to be the shade Nebula. I absolutely love this shade and I think it's gonna look gorgeous. We're gonna be applying this shade basically between the dark purple and the light mint shade. We're gonna apply it using the fingers because I feel like these shades perform the best when they warm up a little bit from the warmth of the skin. And once we apply that shade, we're gonna bring the dark purple and the mint shade on it again to work the shades into each other. So I'm gonna go on and very quickly apply Nebula with my fingers and then work the other two shades into it. I'm not gonna lie, some of the glitter did fall on my face, so once both sides done, I'm gonna go and clean that up. But first I want to repeat the same thing on the other side. The shade here is also called Nebula. I'm gonna apply this using my finger and then I work the other two shades into it using a brush. And look at that, what a positive surprise. When I first applied it, I honestly thought that this was not going to be the same as the Huda one because it was a very, very light layer of glitter, but as I kept going on, it was building up beautifully and now it's pretty much identical to the Huda shade. Alright, well, that's pretty much what I wanted to do to the eyes. I'm gonna go off camera now. I'm gonna add some eyeliner, mascara, clean up a little bit because I do have quite a lot of fallout on both sides, especially from the shade Nebula. I have glitter on the face. Once I'm done cleaning up, I'm also gonna add this Urban Decay 24/7 Glide On Liner in the shade Cuff. I think this silvery shade is gonna look beautiful with this shade Nebula, so I really have high hopes for it. Once I'm done with all of that, I'm gonna be back here and I will tell you my final thoughts about these two palettes. Alright, so here is the finished makeup look. Honestly, I would call this identical. Most of the shades performed really similar. I would say that the first purple shade I used, that was definitely more of a blue toned purple shade on the dupe side, but other than that, I was really surprised about how well they performed, especially because, like I said before, when I was doing the finger swatches, they didn't perform as well as they did on my eyes. So I'm very happy with this dupe palette. Honestly, no one could tell that you're wearing two different eyeshadow palettes. So if you've ever been interested in the Mercury Retrograde palette, but financial reasons or personal reasons were holding you back from picking it up, definitely have a look at this eyeshadow palette because this is a really bomb dupe. That's it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already because I would love to have you here. And until next time, take care of yourself. I will see you very soon.